Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'll let people come in. I'm streaming this live, but after it's done, I'm going to kick it over to be unlisted because I don't want the mass flaggers hitting all my videos. And I'll throw it up on Patreon. And I'll put it on ANC Report. So it'll be available. It'll still be free. You just got to watch it on my website instead of on YouTube. And why not? Like, why wouldn't you at this point? So I saw Steven Crowder, of all people, is kind of at the center, allegedly, of this most recent wave of mass censorship. And so is Vox and somebody named Carlos Maza, I think. Some jabroni that calls for violence on others and calls for mass flaggings and censorship and wants to hurt people financially and like basically a criminal. But that's okay because he's on the left, so the left's allowed to do that. They can be violent. They can try to hurt people financially. They can do that. They can throw milkshakes at people and break windows and just completely chimp out, and it'll all get blamed on the alt-right or somebody anyway. So anyway, this guy was mad at Crowder's jokes. Now, Steven Crowder is someone that I put in the woodshed before over his ignorance about Native Americans. Now, I didn't ask that he be censored or anything. I just fired back. And I know he's trying to be funny. I didn't think it was funny. That didn't matter. It was just that he said a lot of things that were factually wrong that I corrected. And he's one of these people that, everything to him is... anything that has anything to do with any minority must be some SJW, and that's not what I was doing either. I was just saying the facts about American Indians. So, and I've never really found this guy to be that funny, although I did like his videos where he went to college with the blankety blank blank, changed my mind. Because watching idiots engage with each other is entertaining. And sadly, some of these college kids were, even less aware than Crowder. It was just a mediocre mind, whatever. He shouldn't be censored. And so this is kind of taking the narrative, though. It's like, oh, because of this Crowder versus Vox thing. Vox, which got $20 million from YouTube, by the way. Oh, gee, I wonder why YouTube's changing their rules on Vox's behalf, right? Nothing going on there. They need to lose their immunity. They should be suable. And, 230 needs to be repealed and replaced with clear definitions. But anyway, that's not what I'm seeing with the mass censorship. They're like, yeah, Crowder got demonetized. But who else? A whole bunch of channels that criticize a foreign country A, and we all know who that is. That is who got demonetized. Adam Green, Red Elephants, myself, channels of this orbit. Under the guise of, fighting this or that, they gave some other pretext, like people who support hoaxes or ridiculous conspiracies or denial of tragic events. Like YouTube. They peddle conspiracies like Russiagate, and they deny tragic events like Israelis snipers shooting Palestinians. Everyone I know that's posted something like that has had it yanked. So we know who the people are giving flags. And it's not just Vox. And of course they made it identity politics. Like somebody happens to be Latino and homosexual and he's fighting with a conservative comedian. Now they definitely have come down on conservatives. But nothing to the degree, the libertarians and the anti-war, people debunking war propaganda have getting erased since at least 2008. That's when I got erased completely for being anti-war, being anti-neocon. And but the hoo-ha about it has always been focused on, did you hear they censored Alex Jones? Did you hear they censored Milo or Crowder? All these guys have something in common. They're against SJWs, but they support the Zionist state. And this is what Gilad Osman and I pointed out a long time ago. It's controlling the narrative of the fight and the battle, right? The ones that are really getting hammered and disappeared are not even in the discussion. Tucker Carlson talked about Crowder with Glenn Greenwald. Glenn Greenwald's a leftist, by the way, and defended Crowder, which was great. Defended his free speech, even though he didn't like his comedy or whatever. But I feel like it's the Crowder's going to be fine, and some of the bigger fish, they'll be fine. But as people, the mid-card people or the low-tier people that are getting hurt the most by this, because they might rely on YouTube for revenue or subsidize their revenue with it, and when it's taken away, that's really going to hurt their family. Now, the people are already making a lot of money. You know, unless they're an idiot and had no savings, they can coast through, transition. They can hire people to build other platforms and widgets or whatever. And that, I'm not saying that's right, but they'll be fine. People like my co-host, like Andrew, who's doing concreting right now. He's worried because the rainy season's about to hit. They're not going to have a lot of concreting. He needed that super chat money, and it's gone. Now, I re-rig Streamlabs and stuff, but it's going to trickle in because you have to go in, you have to create an account and all this stuff, and then you can finally donate if you like. The plus side is YouTube doesn't get the 30% anymore, so that's good. But, you know, I'm looking at all the videos, and I'll publish them soon. I'll publish screen captures of the letters I'm getting from YouTube. Every video that's censored has a common theme. They censored Christmas in Palestine. They censored Palestinians are humans too. Palestinians are people. And then a whole bunch of videos that put foreign country A in a negative light. And even when members of foreign country A were caught in criminal acts, which involved arson and murder of infants and families and just innocent people for being of the wrong race, YouTube defended that act of racism and violence and punished me for talking about it. So when you talk about white privilege, you ought to be talking about membership of foreign country A privilege, which I'm not even allowed to say, because if I said it, they'd pull this video down. They're supporting baby killers, they are supporting racists, they are supporting conspiracy theories, and they are supporting the denial of tragic events. As long as it fits a leftist narrative, or more importantly, it fits a pro-war narrative. If you debunk war propaganda, you're gone. That is why they got rid of Press TV during the week while they were sending ships to Iran. It's a news organization, a well put together news organization. They just said, nope, no more YouTube, we don't like what you say. Why don't they just have a guideline that says you're not allowed to criticize Israel or debunk any war propaganda undermines its efforts to murder its neighbors? That would be more accurate. This whole thing about the hate speech and stuff, it's a canard. Nobody's saying gas the X. That's not what's being censored. Actually, that kind of filth gets promoted. They'll let you say something that ridiculous. It's when you go after the Z that it's the most effective and deadly. And that's why they're taking money away. They'll take your channel away. They've taken my channel away 3 times. They've only taken my super chat money away this final time because I never had it in the first place until not even a year ago, last August of 2018. It didn't even make it a year. And I wasn't here for February. And I wasn't there for last March. Or April, all 23 days of April. That's what that is. I see there's 103. Oh, here comes the chat. Yes, WWE's in Saudi Arabia. I'll interact with the chat here for a bit. I know there are no super chats, but whatever. You can do it through Streamlabs. We tested it earlier. Somebody sent $1. It's like Streamlabs/Rice 2 cents. Sorry, I'm outside walking to the store. I gotta kind of combo my activism with daily stuff I need to be doing anyway. Like, going to get food for the family, and as I walk, I talk. Yeah. And guys, don't fall for like using epithets yourself. Like, this isn't this this policy is bad, irrespective of some guy who happened to be gay and happened to be Latino and happened to work for an organization that promotes fascism while playing the victim. It's irrelevant what their ethnic group is or sexual orientation. What's relevant is their behavior. And their behavior is promoting censorship and acting like fascists and calling for violence and being racist themselves and protecting acts of racism from their team, all while saying, oi, oi, I'm the victim. That is the epitome of they scream in pain as they beat you. It's projection. They are guilty of everything they're accusing everyone else of. It's just like foreign country A during the build-up to the Second Iraq War. Iraq did not have biological or chemical weapons, but foreign country A does. Iraq did not have nuclear weapons and was not building them, but foreign country A does and did. Iraq was not killing its own people in rape rooms and all this other junk, but foreign country A has such things. Remember when foreign country A was busted in this huge human trafficking ring where they had young girls from the Ukraine and the eastern states barred up in houses and cages where they're being repeatedly whatted, which I'm not allowed to say. Like, I'm not allowed to say things that are true if foreign country A is the perpetrator, because that's hate speech. I'm not saying a group did it because of some biological teleology. I'm saying specific individuals committed criminal acts from a particular location to other people, and if you report it, you'll be punished. When you report on the racism that the Krebs do to the Palestinians, we're just going to say Krebs, that is stolen from an episode of C-Lab 2020. The Krebs are building Kreb-only settlements on top of land that they're taking by force, by bulldozer and guns. And if you point out that they are ethnically cleansing the native population for an ethno-state of Krebs, somehow you're racist, and they are defending themselves. And they believe this. It's not just a tactic. That's how psychologically deep it goes. And that causes actual anti-Kreb thinking. Obviously, it's not Krebs. It's the state that those Krebs live in, and not even all of those. But that's what it's going to cause. And when you oppress voices enough, eventually you're going to cause violence because you've left no other avenue open. I happen to have a Patreon. That's why I'm able to, okay, I lost my super chat and I lost any revenue I could have ever gotten or whatever. And I have to watch what I say or I could lose my YouTube channel. But at least I had a Patreon so I could fall back and pay the bills and everything. If I didn't, and that ended up hurting my kids, the baby especially, who has enough problems, I would completely lose it, trust me. It's only because I have a on and I have supporters who would send in through PayPal and stuff that put me at ease. But I can guarantee you there's going to be someone out there that's going to get damaged by this more, and they may result to violence, and it's foreseeable. And I'm not advocating that, and I'm not justifying that. I am simply explaining that will happen, and they will not connect it to their own behavior. They'll just, why is this happening to us all the time? Gee, it can't possibly be because of anything you ever did. You can't just change the rules June 5th and then retroactively punish people for things that were not against the rules when they made them. Or to just accuse people of breaking the rules who didn't break the rules. Or worse, admitting that while as you didn't actually break any guidelines, We're just gonna censor this anyway. I've gotten so many letters like that. You should see my inbox. And if I had had time today, I would have screenshot all that and made a video like you've seen me do in the past. But I've been playing defense for the last 3 days. Rigging up the Streamlab and getting Devo and all this other stuff to be able to put things on A and C and get away from YouTube. Because I know it's coming. Like this, the second shoe hasn't dropped yet. A lot of us are about to go. You're about to lose a lot of your favorite YouTubers. And it's just going to be people chasing cats and a bunch of leftist propaganda and war support. That's all that's going to be left. It's kind of like TV. I hope BitChute gets a live chat. If they did, I think YouTube's dead. Like, I think there's a lot of people that would throw financial support behind that. Now, here's some good news. Michael Darr got to talk to Tulsi personally. How? Doesn't matter. But when you rub shoulders with rich buddies, then you can actually become a person who counts and gets listened to. That's the way the world works. And one of the ideas he brought to her was about censorship of the internet. Because most of you wouldn't know who Tulsi even was if it wasn't for the internet. She rarely gets on TV. And when she does, it's some gangbang like The View where it's like 6-on-1, you know. Or she gets like a minute max to talk. But these little 30-second commercials on YouTube and stuff does get her foot in the door at least. She went on Joe Rogan's show, which is probably the most exposure she ever got, and that was online. He's big enough to not get rid of because he already self-censors. Rogan knows what he can and cannot say and who he can and cannot have on as guests. I know this. So if Tulsi would champion this, I think a lot of people would get behind her because no candidate is bringing it up right now. Because the left is enjoying, I mean, Trump got elected, whether you like him or not, because of social media. Because the entire mass media was against him and saying he's a Russian puppet and continued to do so after he got elected. Now, our buddies didn't care because whether it was Hillary or Trump, they were gonna get a Zionist. So they already won, and it didn't matter which one because all their needs were gonna be met regardless. So they won back in the primaries because they stacked them with Zionists. It could have been Bernie, Hillary, Trump, or any other Republican, except for maybe Rand Paul, and they would have been fine because they all support the war machine and they all support the Z. Now, it would be political suicide to hit the Z head on, but if she could talk about internet censorship, because you can't get into anything if you don't have the internet. And she does want to break the alliance with Saudi Arabia. That's a plus. I'd love to stop killing kids in Yemen, wouldn't you? And I really don't want to hear these purity spirals where you're like, yeah, but she's not good on every single issue I want. All right, I agree. But no one is. And voting isn't about who you want. It's about damage control. It's getting in the least bad option most of the time. She's not a bad option. I would like better, but I wouldn't consider her not good. I would consider her good. She could get a lot better if she tackled the Z, if she would tackle censorship and maintain her anti-war position, and then learn a little bit about economics when it comes to domestic issues, because whereas I think universal health care is better than the US has now, it doesn't have to be either one. And if you would fix education, it would actually lower the cost of everything around it. And the problem with education is obviously guaranteed government loans to students through the Department of Ed, which is the third biggest corporation after YouTube and Google, if you count it as a corporation, and why not? They get low interest loans, they raise the interest rates and reloan those to students, they make money off the spread, and it hikes the cost of tuition. And then other students who didn't need a loan now need a loan because you've inflated the price. And the Democrat solution is Their solution to everything. Well, let's just raise taxes and use the money to make it more expensive. Like, instead of propping up an overpriced industry by raising taxes on corporations or families or whatever, why don't you just stop having the guaranteed government loans, which is what caused the price hike in the first place? You don't prop up overpriced industries and then look around for ways to pay for it when you don't need to pay for it, because it wouldn't cost that much in the first place if you just got rid of the Department of Ed and got rid of all the loans. Have it as it was before they started behaving that way. That was Ron Paul's solution when he was talking about cutting all these departments. A lot of leftists went, oh my God, without the Department of Ed, how would we have education? Oh, without the EPA, how would we have any rules for the environment? Well, I was alive before the Department of Ed was created, and we still had school and education, and so did my parents and their parents and so on. That's not what creates education. And likewise, the EPA does not create environmental laws. All these departments, they have a nice sounding name, but they don't do what you think they do. They're just an expensive middleman to analyze stuff and make it worse with government bureaucracy. We could save a lot of money. Not only reduce the cost of education, but you could save a lot of money just by getting rid of the Department of Ed and all its employees. Oh man, your government welfare state. Like, that's what a government employee is in that case. I mean, when the government shut down, did any of you really notice? Unless you're working for them, nope. I mean, I noticed something. There was no TSA, and I was able to fly from one place to another and a lot more easily and efficiently, and that was great. But like, your state taxes pay for your schools and your roads. So when you say my roads or the teachers or whatever, that's not from the federal government. That's from your state government. So as far as the federal government cutting departments, great. Well, that's what a conservative or libertarian would want to do. And Tulsi's not on board with that yet. But I don't care, because she would still save us trillions with a T, not billions, trillions, if we would stop at our imperial escapades, which you and I know are on behalf of foreign country, eh? But even if she doesn't say why, as long as it's done, we'll save trillions of dollars and we'll save all those lives, and it would be better for the entire earth if America would stop trying to police the world. And that's why I'm all for Tulsi 2020. I'm on the Tulsi train, and no, I don't agree with every single thing, but I think that's almost impossible. I disagree adamantly with everything all the other candidates are saying. With the exception of Yang, he has a couple good ideas, but yeah, they're all terrible. I mean, second place would probably be Trump, and you know how bad he is. So, which is, you know, really bottom of the barrel stuff. And he's not going to do anything about internet censorship. He's in his 70s. He doesn't really understand it. He just does Twitter. I don't think he gets it. The only real anti-war voice there is are activists using YouTube and YouTube-like sites. There's antiwar.com, and there's UNS, and there are a lot of people writing, and God bless them. But let me tell you something. You are not reaching the audience that the video format is, and ought to be making a video format, by the way. And I'm glad there's articles, and I read them every day. I read them, I like it, I enjoy it, I think it's great. But I'm not gonna be a snob and say, oh, why don't you just read more? People need to read more. I'm gonna be realistic and say, I know people watch videos more than they read. That's millennials, they grew up like that. Netflix and this and that. So you know what? Instead of wishing the world would change, how about I adapt and I make videos? That's why I've been making movies and everything. It's way easier for me to write something than it is to do a video. And I think that's most people. And they're about to take that away under the guise of fighting like racists and hoaxers or something. And it's such hypocrisy. They're guilty of everything they're accusing everyone else of. It's classic them. All right, let's see. I'm just going through the chat a little bit now. Yeah, get rid of the Department of Homeland Security. That'd be another one. That didn't exist till 2002, and you don't need it. And they're not making security. They're just wasting a bunch of money. You'd still have security without it, guys. What else? Oh, congrats to Tony Ferguson, by the way. Probably not how he wanted to win, but I don't know. TKO is a TKO, and whether he blown his nose or not, Cowboy was out. I mean, he couldn't keep up with the pace of Tony, and he was getting outstruck. His face looked like mincemeat. It was a good fight. He put on a good show, but Tony's the real champ. Khabib ducked him like 4 times, and you know, he'd have a harder time with Conor stylistically, but Conor would has a very hard time with someone like Khabib, like a really good wrestler, especially after not going for 2 years and so on and so on. But the way both of them behave, I really wanted to get behind both of them, actually. But some of the stuff they've done outside of the ring, that's not a true martial artist in my book. So Tony had a little bit of a meltdown, but he took care of it. And he didn't break the law or anything like that. So props to Tony Ferguson. I hope he gets that belt. He didn't lose it. He just got injured and they took it from him. You can't compare Tulsi to Ron Paul. Let me tell you why. They say, oh yeah, no chance. She's getting the Ron Paul treatment. I disagree, and this is why. Ron Paul ran as a Republican. As an anti-war Republican. Most of the anti-war sentiment is on the left. That's why a lot of them got behind Obama ignorantly. That's why a lot of them got behind Bernie ignorantly. Is because at least they thought they were anti-war. They're not. If you look at their voting record and their behavior and what they do versus what they say, it's easy to say anything. They're liars. But Tulsi actually is, and they actually see that. Most leftists never saw Ron Paul speak, never watched the Republican debates, because they don't watch the Republican debates. They only watch the Democrats' debates. They only watch their team. They are hardcore tribalists. And they just think Republicans are racist. That's what killed them. She's brown, she's a woman, and she's got a D next to her name. So the best weapon they had against Ron Paul was basically he's a white guy and a Republican. It's gone. The biggest prejudice that the left has towards Ron Paul was that he's not a minority. He's a he. Even though he's a doctor, they don't care. And he's a Republican. So they didn't like him. And they didn't listen to him. If you gave them a blank test and just said, candidate A wants to withdraw all the troops from Afghanistan and Iraq, and candidate B wants to invade Libya, and and candidate B is Obama, and candidate A is Ron Paul, they'd probably pick Ron Paul if you left his name off of it. But if you put candidate B is a black guy, candidate B is a white or A is a white doctor, they're like, oh, I like this black guy. I think maybe we do need to go in Libya. They vote on identity politics. Tulsi is an Indian, Hindu, female Democrat. So that's stupid. It shouldn't matter if she has a vagina or not. It shouldn't matter what color she is. It shouldn't matter what her religion is. It shouldn't, but it does. Because leftists vote on optics. It makes them feel like they're a good person, like they're proving they're not racist if they'll adamantly support minorities, and prove they're not sexist if they want a female president, It shouldn't matter, but it does. So their best weapon is gone. Now, she will get ignored in the media the way Ron Paul did, but social media has grown exponentially since Ron Paul was in a race. But that's why it's being censored now. The anti-war voices are being thrown out. And some people think, well, they want to hurt Trump's chance of getting reelected. Yeah. No, but not just him. They don't want to lose. Let me be careful with my language here. Let's see. Their great financial opportunity involved in war making. I can put it that way. And Tulsi would kill that. So all the MIC and big money, big pharma, all that, they're going to be against her. But I think she'll get enough of the identitarian vote, and Democrats vote just because she's a Democrat. The problem's going to be pulling Bernie supporters away and creating Tulsi supporters. That's why I'm aiming to do Bernie to the woodshed again, but this time juxtaposed with Tulsi on all the same positions, because they're polar opposites, except on some goofy domestic stuff, but that's just Democrats. I mean, if you've seen Bernie to the woodshed, you know what I'm talking about. And I could update that and add a few things, because he supported intervention in Venezuela too. And there were some leftists that got mad at him for that. Jimmy Dore, for example, like, why is Bernie supporting a coup in Venezuela? Tulsi's not. So they're already starting to go, yeah, Tulsi maybe she's better than Bernie. But the thing is, if you look on Facebook, you look at a lot of the wolves in sheep's clothing, people who are supporting Tulsi are actually Bernie supporters who are there to sabotage Tulsi's campaign. She's got a lot of moles in her campaign. And their goal is to make Tulsi Bernie's running mate. Sorry if I'm screaming, but there are so many mopeds and motorcycles in Japan. It's like the one thing I don't like about this place. And they're so damn loud. I really hate them, because if you're trying, some of y'all are parents trying to get a baby to sleep, and then, you know, I feel like Ted Kaczynski. I'm gonna open this drink with two hands. Bernie's the worst one. Like, he's absolutely horrible on foreign policy. Said Assad must go, and supported every intervention, Kosovo, Ukraine, Venezuela. He wanted to invade Iraq in 1998, and he also put sanctions on Iran. He put sanctions on Kosovo, Ukraine, sanctions on, even after he knew hundreds of thousands of kids had died in Iraq, he still supported another round of sanctions. Like, he's a monster. And then he gets up there and he acts like he's the exact opposite of what his record shows he is. Okay? And then his plans to fix, the cost of healthcare and education and stuff are the most damaging and stupid things that I couldn't even come up with something so terrible if I was trying to do it on purpose. And yet he'll pass it off like, yeah, free college, free healthcare, like in Europe or whatever, something like that. No, that is absolutely not what his actual plans would do. If you look at him, I mean, he's borderline communist. On his honeymoon, he had a shirtless dinner with a bunch of actual communists in the Soviet Union with his wife. That's where he went on his honeymoon, to the freaking Soviet Union. He's a closet communist. And he thinks that's a workable solution. And he thinks you plebs are silly enough to vote for that. Yeah, I'm going to promise you lots of free stuff. Let me tell you something. It ain't free. And price controls and taxes up to 90% and some of the insane things that he's advocating. Just kiss the country goodbye. Like, that's the one thing that could do America in, is America. There's no real global threat, militarily or economically. There's only a threat from within of electing somebody like Bernie Sanders to burn the whole house down. Tulsi is more articulate. She's good on immigration too. She actually believes in borders, which used to be like common sense. But some of these Democrats are placating to demographic niches that vote on single issue things like, why don't you let us vote without voter ID, so that way I can vote 10 times in a row. Oh yeah, you can't have voter ID, that's racist. Soon, identification will be considered hate speech. I can see YouTube right now, hitting away at it. Well, anyway, guys, take a couple minutes to create a Streamlab account, not just for my sake, but all these YouTubers who are going to be switching over to that, because Some of us, and only some of us, get to reapply on July 5th. And then we don't know how long we have to wait in line before it gets approved or not. I know Raina waited more than a year, and then they said, no, you're not approved. So now we're making kid videos, and we'll see what they do. No news on that front yet. It's disgusting. Oh, you should go check out BitChute. I completely wrecked this guy on who accused me of being racist. And you know, I wish YouTube, for any of these people that are accusing me of hate speech and stuff, like I'd pay to debate these people, but they don't. They're just like, I have all the power and all, and I just accuse you of this horrible thing, and thus you are no longer a human being. I can take your money away. I can take your voice away. Voila. And they do that to everybody. I mean, like, Red Elephants is a news show. That's it. I think it's Vincent or something. I don't even know them that well. I've been on the show one time, and they used some of my 9/11 work one time I heard about. But I went through and listened to it, and why the hell did they get demonetized? Oh, I know why. Because they're a little bit too accurate about the Middle East. And let me tell you something, it's not the Palestinian lobby that did it. It wasn't the Syrians or the Jordanians or the Iraqis. It wasn't the Lebanese. It wasn't the Egyptians. It wasn't Iran or Saudi Arabia or Kuwait. Actually, Saudi Arabia does have influence. But not as much as some other place. Somewhere on the coast between Lebanon and Egypt that's currently occupying Palestine. We call it Foreign Country A. Can't say the words because of the robots. Man, it is disgusting. All right, let's see. No, racism is not a made-up word. Look, you people that keep saying, well, it's just natural to favor your own tribe. I'll just have a preference of people that look like me and everybody's like that. Everyone is. And that's not even racism. Racism is the belief, like Zionism, that your tribe is superior to others and others are inferior. That's all it is. It's not made up. That is an actual ideology that people do hold. They think that their group is better than all the other groups because it is just genetically superior. Okay? That is a real word and a real term and is not a made-up thing. It's used as a weapon. It's used all the time and applied to people that don't actually hold that belief. It's just an all-encompassing thing to say to anybody you want, just like yelling Nazi at somebody, which is a way of shutting down conversation and saying no one can listen to this person, they're completely toxic. You know, if your Nazism was a form of racism as well, as where they think it's a branch of white supremacy, the way the story's told. And so, and it's not like that was unique to Germany. Let me tell you something. White supremacy was a commonly held belief, especially in the 1930s, pretty much everywhere, including non-white countries. That's what people, that's how they thought. Oh yeah, those people are just better or whatever. So it's not unique or anything, but don't say it's not real or made up or, come on. You all know people who hold beliefs like that, who think like, oh, my group has a higher IQ on average than this other one. We could just, y'all could never invent this stuff. You don't even have the wheel. And we could, airplanes in here. There are plenty of idiots that fit the mold. I just don't see it as like the scariest, most horrible thing in the world. Like when someone's racist, I just kind of laugh. But it's not like I'm not going to talk to that person because of that, or think they can't have a good idea on something else, you know. That's another thing that I find silly. Like, oh, you, like I'm an atheist. If someone's religious, I'm not going to, like, in my mind go, oh, well, you're just a moron in all things. If someone smokes cigarettes, which I consider to be a stupid thing, that doesn't mean I think they're stupid in general. I think they do something stupid, which is smoke. But they might be very smart at, I don't know, whatever, you know, mathematics or something. It doesn't matter. And the same thing, you could be a racist and you could still be a rocket scientist or something. And I don't know, I'm not advocating racism, something I don't agree with. And I'm willing to talk about it, but I can't talk about it on YouTube. I'm not allowed to debate about it because if I allow the other side on, I'll get censored. Anytime, y'all don't even know, a lot of you, I go in and I do these debates, but I do it on their channel because they usually have some stream me or something that's not on YouTube. And I don't get any good rebuttals from my rebuttals. I just get a bunch of, you don't understand stuff. I'm like, why are North and South Korea so different when they have the exact same language, the exact same race? They're both homogenous and they both have high IQ, yet North Korea is a completely failed state. Looks like it takes a little bit more than what you thought to succeed. Maybe, just maybe, policy and ideology are more important than genetics. But, you know, we're not even allowed to discuss it, so. That's just one example, too. There are many homogenous nations with high IQ, Mongolia, China, that just fail because they have bad ideas. There are other areas of the world that succeed at one point and fail in another, depending on whether or not they adopted free markets versus communism or theocracy or feudalism or some other stupid system. That might be the largest factor, is policy. And then there's, you know, how many resources you have, how much coastline you have, whether or not you have sea trade. There's so many factors that give you better correlation to success, rate of invention, and so on than genetics. But I'm not allowed to have those debates. And you're not even allowed to comment back against what I said. You might have something very clever, but you're not allowed to do it because I'll get censored, which means I got to censor you. I usually don't though, but like I roll the dice when I'm doing that, you know? It's just sad, man. I am having H.K. Edgerton on to talk about the Civil War. That's gonna be awesome. I am just waiting for a shirt to arrive. I ordered a shirt from that I believe he may have designed. Well, at least he's selling. And so I'll be wearing the Black Confederate shirt in the interview. So as soon as that arrives, I'll be giving him a call. If you're into Civil War stuff, if you just now got woke on the Civil War and you want to hear a couple guys that are very passionate and well read on that topic discuss it with each other, instead of just somebody interviewing me and asking questions, like two Civil War guys talking about the Civil War, then you definitely want to hear that. It may or may not be BitChute only. We'll see. God dang it. This is where we're at. I don't know. I'm like, oh, I don't know if they're gonna allow that. They call everything hate speech nowadays, so you know, I got a Confederate flag shirt on. Woo! I remember in the 90s that was such a minority opinion. People going, Confederate flag is racist. It's like, no, it isn't. And you just sort of laughed it off. But nowadays, when we're tearing the statues down and stuff, and Antifa, a violent mob of fascists that call themselves anti-fascists, anarcho-communists, and anything other label than the sun because they hate hierarchy. These people are the epitome of the over-socialized leftists that Ted Kaczynski described in his manifesto. I'm going to read it to you. Not right now, but that's coming. Now tomorrow, no, not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, Japan time, I guess tomorrow night, LA time, I'll be on with Sam Tripoli, and we're going to be talking about Blair Mountain. We're going to be talking about Athens, Tennessee. We might touch on a little bit of Killdozer. We're just going to be talking about successful rebellions within the United States that relied on the gun, not the pink pussy hat. And it should be a good show. I was going to do rounds on red elephants, red ice, red whatever, to talk about the dancing Israelis. That was picking up steam. Did you notice that the Great Shoah came on the anniversary of the Six-Day War? Completely derailed my talks about RFK that I had planned. Completely derailed my talks about the Liberty that I had planned. Because I had to spend all week saving all the videos again and moving things around and getting in touch with tech people that could help me do what I need to do, because I'm not very tech savvy still. And I'm not gonna be. That's like a whole nother skill set I need to learn. Like, I need to outsource. I need to learn how to delegate. I know this. So I decided I will throw this link up on Discord. I will put it on ANC Report and you can share it there. Please consider getting some shirts. This might be the last round from France. Allegedly, we'll be setting things up in the US soon. So that'll help speed up the process. We'll also be able to offer tank tops. And some people have, said, why don't you have that? Well, they don't offer it. So it's not my company. I don't make the shirts and stuff. I just make the designs that go on them. So shoes are good. We'll have leggings out soon. Yep. The Bolton Must Go shirt turned out perfect, just how I wanted it. Got one the other day, came in the mail. Oh, yes, I live in Japan as a minority, idiot. Oh, you live in Japan, it's an ethnic state. I just listed a bunch of other ethnic states that failed. Japan is not successful just because there's a bunch of Japanese people living here. Japan is successful because it has fully embraced the free market system and has a philosophy that's conducive to success. It has a parenting strategy that is conducive to success. It has a strong work ethic. It has high trust and honor and all these cultural values that make it what it is. And it's not even a single ethnic group. They all speak Japanese, but they come from the Jomon and the Yayoi and the Ainu and a whole bunch of other different Asian races that you're ignorant about. And they used to all fight with each other, and Japan didn't become the world power that it is now until post-World War II, when it got a constitution, adopted women's liberation and universal suffering, adopted voting in a parliament, and embraced the market. Then it started kicking butt. It was just as Japanese before that as it is now, but it didn't have the same success rate because it had feudalism and samurai chopping each other's heads off. Nothing changed genetically. What changed was policy. You can say the same thing for Europeans or anyone else. When Egypt built the pyramids, what's now in Britain did not have a single standing structure. The Bronze Age was dominated completely by Mediterranean civilizations, including North Africa, like Egypt, and Carthage, which would be Tunisia now. Those areas dominated. And then on the other side, Greece and Rome. And then you had the Hittites and then all those ancient bronze civilizations being Turkey today. Torches passed around. The scientific torch has been in China, it's been in Persia. It moved around from Spain to England, to the United States, to Japan. It's not stagnant, and it's not attached to an ethnic group or race. What works is free trade. Physics was born from sailing, and that was safer in the Mediterranean, and it got better when, look, Eastern Europe is just as white as Western Europe, if not more white. But Western Europe has always, and always will, have a huge advantage in every measuring stick because they're on the coast. It matters. You trade not only material wealth, but also ideas. And once you're on top, you can ensure that you stay on top by taking a stick and smacking your neighbors periodically, the way Britain did to Ireland, for example. Irish people are very successful everywhere other than Ireland. They aren't genetically inferior or something. They do very well in the United States. They do very well in Canada. They didn't do so well in Ireland because they were oppressed by a more powerful neighbor. There's nothing wrong with their genes. It wasn't the language. They shared the language too now, practically. Don't bring up Gaelic and stuff. 98% of Irish people can only speak English, so come on. They're English. They had a more powerful neighbor. That simple. And whether you succeed or not depends on policy. It depends on ideology. It depends on economic ideology especially. It depends on the resources at hand. It depends on how powerful your neighbors are. It depends on a whole bunch of things. How many rivers you have. How much material, a lot of things go into whether you succeed or not. The reason North Africa is better than Sub-Sahara is because it's on the coast. The reason Western Europe is more powerful than the East is because it's on the coast. The reason East China is night and day different from West China is because it's on the coast. And you can even see that within the same country. Kansas will never catch up to California, no matter how white Kansas is, or non-white California becomes, because California is on the ocean and Kansas is not. And that just matters more. And that's in the same country with the same policies and the same government and everything. Coastlines and rivers matter. That's everywhere. The coast of Australia is where all the cities are. In the internal area of Australia, it's basically a wasteland. Why? Because you're not having port cities. And landlocked places don't do well. The only way a landlocked country can do well is if it has a lot of rivers. And they got to connect to something that's not landlocked. Something like Switzerland or something. You can pull it off, but you're still not going to be as strong as your neighbors who have the sea. Now, if your sea is frozen 3/4 of the year, like much of like Siberia or something, then it's kind of useless. But over on the other side of Russia, where you have the Black Sea, where you have the port cities, well, that's the side of Russia that thrives. Because they have ports. That's why they couldn't lose their port in Syria. That's why Saudi Arabia wants this port in Yemen. That's why Russia and Japan, they had a war over Port Arthur, over a port. Because Russia needed a warm water port on its eastern seaboard. And that was enough to fight over. If you don't understand how important maritime trade is, I cannot give you a history lesson, an economic lesson, all this, because you're such a basic bitch that you're like, yeah, well, these people of this color are doing better than this other one. Like, that's the geography of the situation, and it wasn't always that way. Different groups were more powerful than others at different times. But the ones that get free markets first exceed and excel way ahead of everyone else. And when they abandon that, like Spain did, for example, they will flop right back down. And they don't have to change their demographic makeup. It doesn't matter. You will fail, no matter what color you are, if you adopt a system as stupid as communism or religious theocracy or something. You're gonna go nowhere. I'm so sick of arguing with people about that stuff. This isn't a channel for me to explain like why certain civilizations succeed over others. It's a fun topic. But I'd rather talk about current events. What's happening in Syria right now. Over 100 ISIS fighters dead. Good news in Idlib. Let me see some of the comments. Let's see. Yeah, if you're dead on racist, just leave. How about that? I can't block you from my phone, but I'm tired of dealing with you people. You people are going to be the pretext to censor everyone else. And it's a stupid, it's the most petty idea born out of inferiority. It's like some poor white kid that has no personal accomplishment at all, that wants to attach himself to his race, to be like, well, at least other people who look like me did something at some time, somewhere. That's pathetic. And you could add that, fill in the blank for whatever else. It's sad. It's basement dwelling, slog meme posting, pathetic. But it's not as pathetic as SJWs who are inventing genders and allowing men pretending to be women to play in female athletics. That's so crazy to me. And they're gonna come butt heads with Japan soon, because the Olympics are here in 2020. And Japan has a rule that if you don't chop the kakenbaz completely, full on surgery, then you did not transition. And you cannot play sports as a woman. And I don't think a lot of these athletes have done that. But even if you did, it still wouldn't correct all the natural advantages that a man has. A man has faster reflexes. They have a 9% bigger brain. Their bones are stronger, their joints, you're structured differently. It's not just muscle. It's not just speed. It's not just adrenaline and testosterone. It's everything. They are physically more adept for athletics than females. Like, I can beat a lot of professional female athletes at their sport that I don't even play just because I'm a guy who's a bit athletic. Like, I tied an Olympic swimmer a female Olympic swimmer in the Caymans. We had a race, and I tied her twice. And yeah, I swim. I grew up on an island, and I surf and stuff, and I've done probably more swimming than most people, but not as much as like a swimmer, you know, like that's what they do. I should not have been able to do that, but I did. I saw the Tennessee football team defeat the Tennessee basketball team in basketball. That was men versus other men, and they didn't even play basketball. They played football. That just showed the gap in sheer athleticism, because Tennessee football team is really, really up there. It's just pure. The gap is too big, and I know from martial arts, and that's probably the sport, art, whatever, with the biggest, you know, gap. That or boxing or wrestling or something. But there are professionals. Yeah, they could choke out a guy, no problem. I can see him beating up just about anybody but other martial artists. But if they face another martial artist who's a guy who could be several belts below her, there's just too much to overcome. Like, it's that a man's hands are bigger, his frame is bigger, he's stronger, he's faster, he has more endurance, he reacts quicker, he can think faster, his spine will react faster. Like, it's stupid. They want to act like hormone replacement therapy knocks out all the advantages because it lowers their testosterone a little bit. It's not like double. A man has like 40 times more testosterone than a woman. So if you knock that down to, now it's only 20 times more. That's still 20 times more. That's nuts. I mean, guys should not be playing female athletics. I don't care if you want to pretend that you're a girl and wear dresses and whatever. That's all. No problem. I'll call you her. I'll call you by your new name or whatever if you like. But I don't want you playing against actual girls in sports. It's fucked up, especially contact sports. That's dangerous. And it's not anti-trans or anti-gay or anti-anything. It's just a common sense policy. And I really don't want hormones being given to children. And I know I'm taking a risk right now saying these things, but YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, they've all taken a hardline position to support chemical lobotomies, and you're not allowed to disagree without it being labeled hate speech. You also can't do age prejudice anymore. So if you say BOOMER or ZOOMER or Gen X, I guess is the one exception, you can now lose your video for that. And it won't be long before you're punished for comments. That's already kind of happened, actually. My God. Spain changed its policy before it changed its demographic makeup, retard. The United States has changed its demographic makeup. We're sitting on top, ain't we? It's 40% non-white, and it's the richest country in the world, and the most powerful. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, ethnostater. There's very great functional societies that are multi-ethnic, like Hawaii, like Guam, where there's not even just that, there's like 3 or 4 languages in a tiny little area. And they're working out well. You know why? Because of trade and markets. That's what makes things work. It doesn't matter if that person's Korean or Japanese or native Hawaiian or native Guam or a European from the United States or whatever. Sumimasen, nani?
Excuse me. Can you speak Japanese?
Hi.
今電話してらっしゃいます。
今ライブ。わかる？どうぞ。何がしゃべる？
今しゃべるのもいいんですけど、
いいです。
私酔っ払ってるんで、相談したいことあります。
You want a Pepsi? 飲み物が欲しい？
じゃなくて、
お金？
ちょっと電話ちょっと来てからでいいです。
後で。
電話の後。
はい、yeah. It's like, no, I want you to kill the live stream before I ask you for this, which is not going to happen because I'm not done. Dude got me off track. I offered him my Pepsi. I don't have anything else right now. So. Anyway, you see how polite the bum was even? See my son? He even tried to speak English. It's cute. I love Japan. I just had 5 guys out here and a girl who I entertained, and they couldn't believe it was a real place. Yep. But it wasn't always like that here. Japan is a pretty dysfunctional, hardline, pretty backwards area for a long time. And it's still 99.9% Japanese. But it turned itself around because it changed its policies. It changed its entire government. It didn't change it. It was forced to change it. But they rose up from basically nothing because their cities have been bombed, firebombed, or hit with nuclear bombs. They've been starved to death. They lost all their territory in Korea, all their territory in Manchuria. I had to start over. I had to rebuild railroads and things like that. And they did. They knuckled down. They worked their asses off, that generation. And by the 1980s, they're the wealthiest country on earth. Didn't remain that way, but they're still like number 2 or 3 behind China, which has 1 billion people. So that, whatever. If there were 1 billion Japanese, we'd be on Mars. There's another motorcycle. I highly encourage people to visit here. I think you'd love it. If you have someone that speaks the language. Otherwise, I think you'd just be completely lost and probably waste your money. But, yeah. Well, I guess you could go to Tokyo or some super touristy spot. But anyway. Let's see. Dude, don't put words in my mouth. I don't care if you're proud of your ancestors or not. I think it's great to be proud of whatever you want. Do you see the Confederate flag in my room all the time? It's great. It's fine to have regional pride. It's fine to have pride in your family or whatever. Pride is different than the belief in a genetic superiority completely, collectively, versus some other group. That's just retarded. I didn't like the Yankees. And they're the exact same genetic group as Southerners. But they had a policy of corporatism and cronyism and banker and railroad rule, rich over the poor, that I disagree with. I like the Jeffersonian philosophy. I agreed with Jackson. I agreed with Robert E. Lee. And it has nothing to do with what color they were or whatever. Because all the other side was the same, and they were awful. You really got to get over that. And I think a lot of this stems from the social acceptableness in our society to bash on white guys. I see it all the time. I get it all the time. Like, I'm not going to wear a badge around and be like, oh, I'm this, this, and this. I get all the white prejudice too. I hear it. I see it. You know, my kids, if we were to go to university in the United States, would be held to a higher standard than everyone else because they're Asian or they're Asian enough. That's fucked up. You should have universal standards. You shouldn't even ask what someone's race is. You should just base it on merit. That's all we're asking for. I'm not advocating diversity or non-diversity. I am saying base everything on merit and let the cards fall where they may. And if some group is so much better than the other, then that's how it'll be. But if it isn't, it won't be. And I'm confident it won't be. It'll be, you know, whoever usually has a good family that focuses on hard work and savings and not blaming all your problems on everyone else. Excuse makers always fail. People who cannot accept personal responsibility and accountability for their own actions and blame everything on everyone else will not succeed unless it's through pure nepotism. That's been my experience. You got to base it on merit. And when you don't do that, you undermine the credibility of everyone that belongs to the same category as those that are being favored when they may not have needed any favoritism to get where they were in the first place. They will be treated as if they did, because you won't be able to tell the difference between that person and the person that completely rode on the identity politics. That's why we got to get rid of identity politics. And it's not racist to get rid of identity politics. It's not racist to get rid of affirmative action. It's not racist to judge people, some people to higher standards than others, based on how well at some point in time that group is doing collectively versus another. It's not sexist to try to say, let it be. If more men are interested in engineering and more females are interested in nursing, so? Why does it would be ridiculous if everyone was equally interested in every subject and occupation, in every piece of geography and every, that would be strange. That would be almost impossible for it to just be like that naturally. There's no way. But that's the identitarian fantasy. Wherever they can witch hunt, they will. And when homosexuality is pretty much, compared to like the 80s or before, it's pretty much accepted nowadays. So they invent another one. Not another one. It's not invented, but trans is. It's like, oh yeah, I identify as this. What's next? Are we gonna have transracial? Are we gonna have trans age, trans species? Who knows? But all that like fear mongering about pedophilia and stuff, it was kind of like, oh come on, you can't be that bad. I don't know. It kind of looks like that is the direction that we're headed with SJWs. They're normalizing degenerate sexual behavior, and YouTube's all about it. That doesn't get banned. Saying stop shooting Palestinians gets banned. Stop starving people in Yemen gets banned. Stop killing farmers in Africa gets banned. But, oh, you want a 10-year-old to dance in a gay bar and have dollars shoved in his underwear? Well, that's just cute, isn't it? It's disgusting. And I don't blame the kid. I blame everyone around him for enabling it. That's so gross. Anyway, what would you like? This has been the Walk and Talk. It's usually for Patreons. Just a little extra stuff. But do you want me to hit up after Sam Tripoli and after the Civil War talk? Would you like further discussion about the Civil War? Would you prefer modern stuff like September 11th or the 93 World Trade Center bombing or something in recent history? Or would you like something else you've heard me talk about in the past? There's a lot of things. I've been on for 13 years and I used to talk about totally different things back then than I do now. But there are a lot of new subs and eyeballs and ears. And some people are like, hey, could you explain the Federal Reserve again? Or could you do this again? I leave that up to you and the comments. Again, consider creating a Streamlabs. And I don't care if you agree with everything I say or don't. But at least I have a variety of issues. I don't have just a single issue like race or whatever. And a lot of you clown world people do. You're such sheep. Like one person puts on a clown hat, so all of you put on, oh, we're all gonna do clown hats. That'll be good. We're such individual thinkers. Honk, honk. I think it's lame. But I support your right to do it, and I will not censor you for it. And you're welcome to debate on BitChute, just can't do it on this. I know you won't. I know you won't show up. They all say, we're going to talk about that. But then they never do. But whatever. Bolton must go.